Most basketball strength programs fail because they don't follow a logical structure. Today, I'll show you exactly how to build a strength program from scratch, step by step. We'll break down when to focus on strength versus power, how to pick the right exercises, where to add your creativity, and even how to leave some control to the players in the whole process. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like the topics that I'm putting out there. I'm curious on your thoughts. How do you program for your players? Now, let's get into it. So first of all, what makes a good basketball strength program? What matters most is, of course, we're keeping players strong, explosive, and fresh for the games. Now, this is a simple answer, but a little bit more tricky is how to achieve that in season with all the games and other team activities, practices, and so on. I'm gonna show you my process step by step. How do I program my exercises? You can follow along with me in, I'm gonna share my screen in a little bit. So the most important thing obviously is know your team's weekly schedule or so-called microcycle. So each training day will serve a purpose. Obviously, the most important part is the game day. In my experience, most teams play one game a week. That's on the weekend. And what we're going to start is we're going to start earlier in the week. That means game day minus 4 or 5. And then we're shift focused through the rest of the week. So early in the week, what we want to focus on obviously is strength and hypertrophy. This is where we can push a little bit heavier loads. Volume will be slightly higher. This is where we build our foundation for the rest of the week. So usually a day after the game will be our day off, and then first day coming back we have our stronger lifting session. So let's just start off there. I always program from the main part out. So first we're going to focus on the main exercises. We got our A block, which will be our lower body block. We got our B block, which is upper, and then C block will be our assistance exercises. First off, with our lower body block, I want a post chain exercise, which will be our kettlebell kickback deadlift. Combine this with knee dominant exercise, which in this case will be front to back lunges. So usually I follow a 4-week cycle, 4-week program, and in the first week what we are gonna do is we're gonna do 3 sets. On the staggered stance deadlift we're gonna go 8 to 10 reps, and on the front to back lunges we're gonna go 5 or 6 reps. Usually I give my players also the load ranges. So in the first week I try to simplify. I'll just say take one dumbbell or kettlebell that is about 20 to 25 kilograms. Then they do all the reps. First week is a little bit easier, and then on week 2 we're gonna ramp that up. So we're gonna go, I usually say take weight that is 1 level or 2 levels higher than the previous week. That will be on our second week. Then on the third week, this is usually where we go a little bit heavier because the body is already adapted. This is where we're gonna take the second dumbbell or kettlebell. And on the fourth week, usually it depends on our schedule too. Either we keep the same load, or if the players feel tired, we go down a little bit. And you can see all the set and rep schemes on the screen. Well, with the staggered stance deadlift, what I give is another option for my big guys that may not be comfortable with that movement. On this program I'll give the double kettlebell sumo deadlift, which is a nicer position for that really tall guys to get into. So that was our lower body. Then on the upper body, what we're gonna use is one vertical pull variation and one vertical push variation. So for the push variation, I'll choose the landmine, half kneeling landmine press, and we're gonna combine that with vertical pull variation. Here usually I give a choice of either chin-ups or pull-ups, or for maybe a bigger, a little bit heavier guys, we'll just do lat pull down. variation. Again, set and rep schemes, we're gonna progress here, you can see on the screen. So we gradually increase the intensity throughout the month, but we either keep the volume or we even slightly increase the volume. Again, players adapt week to week to these exercises, so usually muscle soreness past week 1 is not the problem if you do these things correctly. And then for the C block, what I usually include is don't forget those ankles and calves, so either single leg calf raises, tib raises, maybe even some balance exercise here. We will just keep the 2 sets of 15 reps here, and if I have time, I will include also the bicep, tricep and shoulder abduction combo, which is again 2 sets of 15, so a little bit higher rep ranges, a little bit more focus on hypertrophy here, and that would be our whole block. So on this training, obviously we focus a little bit more on strength and hypertrophy. This is where we push heavier loads, and volume is slightly higher than on the other session that we're gonna touch on right now. So closer to the game day, that's optimally that's 2 days before the game day, but you can also do a day before the game with a little bit less volume. This is where we're gonna shift to power development. What does that mean? We're gonna shift to velocity-based movements. So your explosive movements, your CNS priming exercises. Why? Because on the day or 2 days before the game day, you want your players rested on the actual game day, not sore, and you want your players to feel explosive, to feel better on the coming days. So what I have here on our A block is gonna be pin half squats. This is where we're gonna focus on that powerful concentric action. With lowering the weights, we're not gonna do slow tempo, so we just wanna push up as fast as possible and then just return to our bottom position and reset. So for the first week on the pin squats, we're gonna go 3 sets of 5 reps, and usually, at least in my case, I'm gonna say to the guys after the warm-up set, go around 100 kilos, maximum 120 kilos. So for the half pin squat, that's actually not that heavy. That's a pretty light load for pro athletes. But then on week 2, on week 3, we're gonna add 10 kilograms each week. We can even cut down the reps a little bit. So in a perfect world, we're gonna go 3 or 4 explosive reps here. We're gonna superset this with seated box jumps. So it's same movement pattern exercise, but of course, so seated jumps are your plyometrics and unloaded variation. So I like this contrast a little bit. On the seated jumps, again, 3 sets of 5 reps. And on the third exercise, so where the guys use for rest a little bit, we're just gonna go to our hamstring curl variation. This can either be a machine, this can be a Swiss ball curl, either TRX option. So usually I give players some autonomy here to pick and choose which exercise they feel the best for their hamstrings. A little bit more volume here, so we're gonna go 6 to 8 reps per side. I like the single leg version here better, and we're just gonna keep that throughout the cycle. So same reps, same sets. So for our upper body here, we're not gonna overcomplicate too much. You saw we did vertical push pulls on earlier in the week, so here we're just gonna have our horizontal press and row actions. So in my case, I'm gonna choose dumbbell lying row variation, and then for the horizontal press, I give them some freedom too. So either your floor presses, your bench presses, you can use dumbbells. Sometimes we even do weighted push-ups. And again, we're gonna start with 3 sets, 8 to 10 rep range, and then we're gonna increase the load but reduce the reps a little bit. And we're even gonna add 1 more set on weeks 3 and weeks 4. Okay, then we go to our C block. This is gonna be my core and like a little bit more specific exercises. So what I have here is split squat, hold, soleus raises. So in your split squat position, you hold 2 dumbbells and then you just add some calf raises there. This works your legs isometrically, but also we got some soleus action there. We got some single leg balance exercise. So this can be, here I have single leg overhead holding perturbations. So where you kind of shift the med ball or the weight over the head. We're gonna hold this for 15 seconds. And then half kneeling med ball slams. This is our explosive exercise for the core. So half kneeling position, you go overhead and slam med ball as fast as you can. Again, 2 sets, and then at the D block actually I have some individual room. So this is where players can do their own exercises, either some leg extensions, either more arms, either more core, so whatever they need to work on or what makes their body feels right. Even some stretches maybe. All right, so now we're gonna zoom out of this weekly or monthly program, and I want to cover some principles, what is important for me. For me, it's not as important just some exercise collection, but I want to cover some of my major principles here. In each of the weekly programs, I want to cover all the major movement patterns. So in each of my programs, you'll see a squatting movement pattern. You have your hip hinge movement pattern once a week, and once a week I'm gonna go with my hamstring curl variation. Obviously we're gonna use some unilateral exercises which will help us, of course, to develop each limb separately. And then upper body push pull, we want to keep that strength balance, and maybe not even develop upper body if you're not a young player, but we just want to keep that strength gains from the summer in season. Core, we're going to use anti-extension, anti-rotation. We're going to focus on some rotational movements too, just to make sure the players move their body the way they're supposed to. All right, but now you're going to ask, what about basketball specific considerations? Where do I include those? As you can see, it's not just about sport-specific drills, but I focus on functional and transferable strength. Basketball-specific, they're gonna cover obviously on the court with practices most of the time, but for me, like sport-specific are like pin squat that we mentioned, are some box jumps, or even some sled work, resisted accelerations, med ball throws, or overcoming isometrics. So I cover these topics in more depth in my priming video, so you can check that out. Just make sure that your basketball specific exercises are not like circus acts or trying to mimic what the players already do on court, but that you microdose those in the weight room with these options. Okay, how about corrective exercises, recovery techniques? You're gonna ask me where to place those. Obviously, we do some correctives, we do some mobility before every team practice, we do dynamic warm-ups and so on. But I sprinkle those in our weight room warm-up also. So your planks, your dead bugs, your rotational movements, your good mornings, for example. And we focus on so best recovery obviously is your time away from basketball. But on our low intensity days, we also focus on some breathing exercises. Here guys have free access to sauna, which is amazing to use if you can. And sometimes in the morning we also do our mobility circuit, our breath work too. So do players get input in my program? Yes, they do, but I do that in a structured way. So as you can see in our programming, here and there I let them choose their own variations, especially when we move towards the end of the season. I'll give them some options while maintaining the structure needed for progress. They cannot just blindly choose their exercises or just do their own thing there. I still want to cover the major movement patterns and rep schemes that I have planned for them. For example, one thing that comes to mind, so some players 2 days before the game may be tired, their knees be hurting. Would I still push, for example, your pin half squats on them? Actually, I have another option for the group that may be dealing with some soreness or some nagging injuries. Instead of pin squats and jumps, I would just give them tempo squats, tempo goblet squats, for example. So 3 seconds down, 2 second hold at the bottom, and then a normal concentric action. And most of the times this will actually be your most explosive high minute athletes. So this is a little bit counterintuitive here, because your explosive athletes will use your recovery or your tempo work. And what is interesting, non-athletic or less athletic players will actually need to work on their explosiveness. So I kind of cross match them, so our less athletic players will use that for explosive development, and our more athletic players will work on their joint health, let's call this. Important thing is just to explain some players, if they come with questions, why we do things, why do I need to focus them on lighter or heavier loads. These things build buy-in. And of course, for the end, every coach has their unique style, every coach has their own preferences from their background. If you cover different sports, don't just copy what you see here, but actually have your own answers ready. And of course, not every weight room is the same, so this is where your creativity comes in. And at least in my experience, the best program is where there is a balance between science, your experience, and adaptation. So it's not just like everything needs to be based on research, or like how do they call it? Not everything is evidence-based training. You're not gonna do that. But also not everything is just your dogma and your experience. So a good program is kind of mix of art and science, let's call it. All right. A good program also isn't rigid, it evolves. A good program also isn't just like a rigid structure. It should evolve based on your team, your schedule, and individual needs. Sometimes even I throw my programming out the window when I see the guys, or adjust, for example, 20% of the program based on what I see that day. So make sure you leave room for some adjustments based on team needs, and that's it. So one key takeaway from this, I want you to know that programming isn't just about sets and reps. It's about understanding your sport, the players, and the timing of your season. A great program blends in structure while allowing flexibility. You need a plan, but also you need to adjust based on your players and what they need week to week. If this helped, let me know in the comments your approach of programming. And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and stay tuned. See you guys in the next one.